Welcome to my work solutions for the Edexcel Higher GCSE. As you can see, it's the summer 2024 paper 2H. So let's go. So question one of them mean, median, mode and range questions. Just wordy. Take it one step at a time. The one I pick out, first of all, the one that stands out to me was the mode is 18, because all the numbers are different. So there we go. We need to make 18 the most popular number. So that means we can now work out the range. Highest take away 13 gives us the smallest. And the only one that needs a little bit of thought, in order to get the median to be 10, so the middle numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, is there. So the idea is 8 to 10 is up by 2. It needs to balance out, so J must be 12. So in they go, 5, 12, and 18. I'm rubbish at my 8s and 6s. Number 2. So usual cheating for me, because me and technology do not mix. I'll just talk you through it. So y equals 2 would be a horizontal line through 2. They want it labelling. X equals 6 would be a vertical line through 6. And y equals x plus 1 would have the intercept of 1 and a gradient of 1. So it's almost your diagonal, but 1 up from the origin. So y equals x plus 1, I'll squeeze up there. Now for your inequalities, one at a time. Y is greater than or equal to 2. I use the arrows. I know some people will use a shading technique or put dots in. It's entirely up to you. Horizontal must be less than 6. That gives you that arrow. And the way to read this is the height must be less than or equal. So height as in underneath. So you're looking at the underneath, which gives you that region there. On we go. Number 3. Usual kind of speed, distance, time knowledge required. I'd always recommend writing out your DST triangle as soon as you see it. But as usual with these, be careful. Decimal and time are not the same sort of thing. That's not 9.36 hours. Minutes, don't forget, are 1/60th of an hour. So 36 minutes is 36/60ths of an hour. That does actually cancel down to 3/5. Or if you want to go even further, you can rewrite it as, 9.6 hours. So now we can crack on, work out the total distance. We do speed times time. So 820 multiplied by 9.6 is 7,800. Told me 8, it's 9, all I'm bad. 7872. So on these fractions for question 4, put your calc to one side. That's what show means. Show means do. So let's make them top heavy, or improper if you prefer. 2 7s are 14 plus the top. 3 9s are 27 plus the top. Feel free to work out 18 times 28, but I'll cancel down. Top and bottom are divisible by 9, so divide by 9 and again. Top and bottom are divisible by 7. So there we go. And we get a nice easy 8/1. In other words, 8, and the mark scheme is very much open to those pre-cancelling. Number 5, as bog standard a SOHCAHTOA as you're ever going to see. So get your labels sorted from the angle. That's my opposite. That's the hypotenuse. That's the adjacent, which is useless. So it's a OH SO question. We want X, which means we want the opposite. So we're going to be doing sine of the angle times 6.5. Answer to one decimal place. If your calc doesn't behave, don't forget if it opens a bracket, well worth closing it. I get 3.634, in other words, 3.6. One of those weird ones, number 6, where they don't give you any numbers, just asking you to do it, so it's ultimately going to look like a strange answer of so many W's. Always think, if it was 5 meters, we would change it. If it was meters, we'd go to kilometers by dividing by 1,000. And we'd go from seconds. How far can you run in a second compared to 60 seconds? 60 longer, 60 times longer. And to hours, 60 times longer. Well, if that's what you do for 5, that's what you do for W. So you take your W, you divide it by 1,000, and you multiply it by 3,600. And if you stick 3,600 divided by 1,000 in your calculator, you'll either get 18 fifths, which is a perfectly good answer, or 3.6 W, both proper answers, going to get all the marks. Number 7. So we've got trapezium on top of rectangle. When you've got a compound shape, get it split. So we're told the total area is 390. So we can just crack on with setting up an equation. 390 is going to equal the rectangle, which is 21 times 13, and the area of the trapezium. Feel free to look up your formula page, but it's basically a half. In other words, it's the average of the parallel sides. The parallel sides are 21 and 15, and they would be multiplied by the distance between them. We don't know the distance between them, but what we do know is we have an expression for it. That distance would be h minus 13. So we've got the equation set up. We can start solving it. So let's get rid of all these brackets, tidy up and get some numbers. So 21 times 13, 273. 21 plus 15 halved is 18. And that now looks a lot easier to expand these brackets while also subtracting 273 from both sides. 18 times 13, or negative 13, is minus 234. So to get h, we're going to take the 117, add the 234 to both sides, and divide both sides by the coefficient of h, which gives us either 39 over 2 is a perfectly good answer, but so is 19.5. Both get the marks. Number 8. So one of them extremely wordy questions. So all I'm saying is one thing at a time. Ask yourself at the end of each sentence, what does it tell me? So top line tells me 600. And then it's T, C, and D in the ratio of 9 to 4 to 2. And looking ahead, as you can tell, it kind of goes into fractions and stuff like that. So I'm going to change these ratio numbers into fractions. It's 9 out of 15. It's 4 fifteenths and 2 fifteenths. So 45% of the tulip bulbs are for yellow flowers. So 45% of the tulips. So that's the fraction of all the flowers which are tulips and yellow. And then 5/8 of the crocus bulbs. So crocus It's a case of 5/8 of. So 5/8 of the 4/15 are crocus and yellow. And then we get all of the daffodils. So when you stick all that in your calculator, I get 57 hundredths. So there we go, 57 hundredths of all the plants are yellow. Of means times. So 600 multiplied by 57 100ths gives you 342. On we go. Number 9, as bog standard, a capital and multiplier question you can get, because it's 1.024 for 4 years, nearest whole number. My calculator spits out 4,947.80, etc. So it's 4948 for the nice 3 marks. Another bog standard. All right, plenty of bog standard marks on this. So I'm going to double the bottom equation. I could turn the y's into 20, but what's the point in changing 2 equations when doubling the bottom equation works a treat? So we double everything on the bottom. And we do, they've gone. And we do a takeaway because it's same sign, subtract. So 4y take away 10y. Not forgetting the x's have disappeared, cancelled out. And we get minus 15 over there. We divide both sides by negative 15 and we get 2.5, which we then take to any of the 2 equations you want. I'll do the top one. So we get 6x's plus 4y's is 10 equals 1. Let's subtract 10 from both sides. And when we divide both sides by 9, we get negative 3 over 2, or minus 1.5. I said bog standard, it carries on. Factorise that, so start racking your brain for 2 numbers which multiply together to make negative 22 and add together to make positive 9. It's positive 11 and negative 2, which takes you through to solving it, which basically means change the signs. Onwards. Number 12, Ali uses a fitness tracker. Great. So, on the second line down, 4 days, the mean number, so we want the total. So we're going to multiply 4 by 11,800. They've gone 47,200 steps. Same again for the next 3 days. 3 times that 13,000 odd gives us 39,621. To work out the mean over all 7 days, you need the total, which is 86,821, and it gets divided by the total number of days, 7. And that's a nice 3 marks, in my opinion. Question 13, as straightforward as they come, really. Don't forget when you plot, make sure you use the upper class boundaries. And let's add these up as we go along to get 7, 24, add on the 18, we get 42, 56, 66, and 70. Always nice to have a double check if they give it you. So I've already drawn it, I've done it on my worked answers and cut and pasted it to bring it across. Yes, I've enlarged it, but you can't see part B or C, sorry, C or D, but here we go anyway. It asks you the extremely bog standard. Doesn't ask for a median actually, but does go for interquartile range. So there's 70 people, so the lower quartile is at the 17.5th. If you treble that, you get the 52.5th. and I come out with numbers around 36, 37 or so. At the end of the day, I think I got 20 for me interquartile range, and the mark scheme allows 18 to 22, so I'm pretty happy with my accuracy. Part D wants the number of teachers who travel more than 46 kilometres. So you find your 46 and you go up to your line, up to your cumulative frequency diagram and along, and it looks like I'm hitting 62. So how many teachers are above, more, whatever you want to call it? I'm getting 8. I'll fill it in. Number 14, it's expanding a cubic, as you can tell, with the slight thing that there's only 2 brackets. So I'm going to leave the 3y out of it. I'll just expand this lot first, so 2y for that loop. Positive 14y, positive 5y is positive 19y. And we've got a plus 35 on the end. All that needs multiplying by 3y. Loops if you fancy it, but that'll give you 6y. Whoops, that's a squared. That'll give you 6y cubed. That'll give you 57y squared, and 335s are 105y. Question B, solve. So I'm going to multiply every term, all 3 terms, by 100, which really means this needs timesing by 5. So I'm timesing it by 100, so it's being times by an extra 20. And similar logic, these numerators are going to be multiplied by 25. That will get them all on the same level, which is important because it just makes it look a heck of a lot easier. So 20 multiplied by each of these is 40x plus 60. 25 multiplied by each of these is 150x minus 125, and the 100's gone on the bottom, so it's just 163. So let's isolate the x's on the left-hand side. There's 190. Let's take all the numbers across to the right-hand side. We're getting 228. So x is 228 divided by 190. Your calc will say 6.5, and you could go, if you wanted to, for 1.2. Question 15, make G the subject. It is one of those trickier ones because, as you can see on the right-hand side, there is a G on the top and the bottom, so it's going to require some factorising. So let's go. Let's square both sides, and let's multiply both sides by 11 plus 2G. So I'm doing a couple of things in one there, just to speed the process up. That's a heck of a rubbish plus. Now let's expand. So 11e squared plus 20, sorry, 20, what am I about? Plus 2e squared g. And now we need to isolate the g's, get them all on the same side. You can go left or right. I just always prefer to go for the left. So I'm going to leave the 2e squared g on the left, subtract 7g. So that leaves the 5 on the right-hand side, and I subtract the 11e squared. We can now factorise out the g. That was the key to this entire question, because otherwise, how do you make g the subject without getting 1g on its own? And we're there, because all we do now to get our answer is write the right-hand side divided by the left-hand side. With or without brackets, it's entirely up to you. And for B, you can factorise it by sight if you want. I'm actually going to go for the old AC method, because the numbers, I would class them as reasonably in the middle. There's quite a few options. So let's go for 3 times negative 32. So AC is negative 96. And while I create some room, I start racking my brain for two numbers which multiply together to make negative 96, but add together to make positive 4. In other words, they need to be 4 apart, so quite close. 12 eighths it is. I'm going to go with positive 12 and negative 8. And again, I've said on other videos, these could be the other way around in terms of it could be negative 8y plus 12y. It will still work out. You will still get the same answer if you don't make a mistake. So we factorise the left. We get y plus 4. We factorise the right. And we hope we get the same. How can we get y plus 4? We take out a negative 8. Because that leaves us with y plus 4. So don't write your solutions because they're not. They're critical values. They're not solutions. It's an inequality. So if we have a look at the number line, the two critical values are negative 4. So I forgot to actually factorise it, haven't I? Let's y plus 4 and 3y minus 8. Do apologise. So the critical values are negative 4 and positive 8/3. And it's a positive y squared. And we are interested, where is this quadratic above 0? As you can see, that's on the outsides of the sketch. So we are wanting a broken answer, which will be y is less than, not equal to, because look at your starting point. Y is less than minus 4, or it needs to be greater than 8/3. On we go, number 16. I've said it on other Venn diagrams, particularly for these treble ones. I do find it's better sometimes to read all the information from the bottom up. All right, with the idea of, so 2 chose none of the workshops. That'll be 2 outside. 39 chose embroidery, so that's probably not going to help us. So let's go back to the top. 9 choose knitting, so 9 slots in the middle. So this was actually better information at the top of the list, but, the bottom helps. What have we got? 17 for knitting and photography, so that's K and P. 17 minus 9, in we go. Should have ticked them off. 16 for P and E, so we need a 7 in there to give us the 16. 20 for K and E, that needs an 11. 28 in the photography circle, so we need a 4 in there when you've subtracted them all from 28. 39 for embroidery, so that circle needs to be 39. So 39 minus these numbers gives us 12. And so, as you can see, they haven't given us enough information for what goes in just K. Do 100, do 60, minus all the numbers you can see, and you get the number 7. I'll stay on this page. There are parts B, C, and D, so let's talk through them. So for part B, it asks for the probability given that this student chose photography. So what's the probability that given that the student chose photography, so we're only looking at the photography students. In other words, the answer should be out of 28. Find the probability that they also chose knitting. So knitting is the intersection. It's the 8 and the 9. It's 17/28. Part C asks us for the number of students that are in P intersection, not K. So in other words, let's just give ourselves a bit of help here. If we're not looking at K, so that's basically not them. So we're looking at these other 4 numbers. Where do these other 4 numbers overlap with P? And there we go. The 4 and the 7 are inside P and not in K. So it's those 11 that we are interested in. Let's go for red for the final bit because it's a weird one. It says, and I'll write it out, N P union E intersection K. So BIDMAS says brackets first and brackets inside brackets takes the priority. So for red, we're only looking at P union E. So we're looking at them. That circle there is P union E, but we want the overlap with what's inside K. There's K. So where's the overlap? 8, 9, and 11. So you add those three together, and that gives me 28. And we had 11 and 17 28s there. Oh, my 8s. Anyway, number 17. As soon as you see a direct proportion, you get right in the equation. Don't worry about that fish symbol. No one cares. Q is directly proportional to the root of D. Use any letter for K. No one cares about that either. Stick in the numbers you are given. Q is 4.5 when D is 324. And the root of 324 is 18. You could write 18 there. But we want K. We want 4.5 divided by 18. A quarter, or 0.25 if you want, however you want to write it. It needs to be Q equals this number multiplied by root of D. I'll go for 0.25. On we go. Number 18, we've got it in the, not quite in the form of y equals mx plus c, so let's just subtract 2x from both sides, and it's getting, not an equals. Subtract the 2x and it's getting there. It should be plus 7. Divide both sides by the 5. So the intercept's there, but no one cares. It's all about the gradient that is perpendicular. So whether you do the multiplying to make -1, -1 divided by -2/5, or you just flip it and change the sign, negative reciprocal, no one cares about that either. Number 19. So 3 digits all been rounded off. Let's go for C. 8, nearest whole number. Let's go up and down by half a whole number. F is 2 decimal places. Let's go up and down to the 3rd decimal place. So 6.625, 6.615. Then we'll do a similar for H, but 1 dp means we look at the second, we stick a 5. We add a 5 on at the end and take a 5 on take a 5 off at the end. So we get £1.25, if that's how you prefer to think about it, and £1.15. Now comes your logic step. If we're wanting the smallest possible value of G, we're going to be needing the smallest starting point on top divided by the largest thing we can make on the bottom. So we need to maximize 2f minus 3h, which means we need 2 lots of the biggest f minus 3 lots of the smallest h. So go through it one at a time. Do I need the upper or lower? That's how you select. And now it's all about pick them and sticking them in a calculator. So it's 7.5 on top, and on the bottom 2 lots of 6.625 minus 3 lots of 1.15. Do make sure you stick in brackets. Double them up if you don't. Get 75 over 98, but it wants 3 dp's. 0.7653 and so on becomes 0.765. Number 20. Quite a strange one, but ultimately it's substitute things in and make everything cancel out. Now there is an important concept here I'll just explain in my solution. When you've got a situation like this, for example, 1/5 divided by 3/5. Stick that in your calc and just the fifths cancel. So the bottoms on the top, the bottoms on the bottom, they cancel out. And that would work also if it's more complicated. Imagine if you're doing a question like, I don't know, 1/8 plus 3/8, which I know is a half, but who cares? All over 3/8 plus 3/8. That would essentially be 4/8 over 6/8, which is 4 over 6, 2/3. But guess what? Because they're all over the same number, we can cancel it out. Basically multiply everything by 8, top and bottom. And you end up with 4 on the top, 6 on the bottom. Oh, what a surprise. And so, sorry for waffling there. If you did know it, I do apologise for wasting a minute of your time. But that's how I went about this question. I went straight to the 5k over x plus 2 that we're told to start with, but I replaced the k on the top with x minus y. And on the bottom, I replaced the x with 1 over 4y. Not forgetting there's still a plus 2. But where do I go from here? Well, on the top, notice, always keep an eye on your answer. The answer doesn't contain any x's. So on the top, I'm going to expand the brackets. On the bottom, I'd like to combine these. Not actually going to need to, but I could. So I'm going to write the number 2 in a stupid way. Another way of writing 2 is 8 over 4. Another way of writing 2 is 8y divided by 4y, because that would indeed be 2. So, what's happening on top? I'm going to replace the x with 1 over 4y. Guess what I'm going to do with 5y? Another way of writing 5y, well, another way of writing 5 would be 20 over 4. So another way of writing 5y would be 20y squared over 4y, because the 20 over 4 would cancel down to 5, the y squared over y would just become y. And it might look horrible and unwieldy, but it's about to get a whole lot simpler, because the idea is, as I said at the start, they're all going. So we're left with 5 minus, by the way, I've magically turned that positive into a, yeah, should be a positive. I get 5 minus 20y squared on the top, and I get 1 plus 8y on the bottom. And let's keep an eye on, that's exactly the form that they wanted it in. So it was one of them that did get a very much messier before it got a whole lot better. But it did all work out nicely in the end. Probably an easy way of doing that, which I've not really looked into. It's only worth 3 marks, but got an important lesson. Hopefully you might have learned something. If not, I'm sorry for wasting your time. Question 21. So we don't know the radius. When it comes to circles, it's always nice to know the radius, and we just don't know it. I'm going to call the radius x, which will mean the box, the square, is 2x by 2x. So we can now make a statement. We can say that 80 which is the shaded region, is going to be the area of the square, 2x times 2x, minus the area of the circle, which is pi r squared, but we don't need the r, because the r is x. So let's just tidy it up. 80 equals 4x squared minus pi x squared. I'm going to take an x squared out, so I get 4 minus pi. And we can work out our x. So x will equal, it's going to be 80 divided by 4 minus pi. But as you can see, from x squared to x, I've square rooted. However you get it, it wants the final answer to 3 sig figs. So I'm going to work in 4 decimal places, always be a bit more accurate than you're being told to. That's how I'll work. So now let's try and answer the question. Work out the length of A to C. That's the length of A to C. So it's a hidden Pythagoras question. Good news is we know what x is, which means we know what 2x is. We just need it doubling. So we can make a statement using our old mate Pythag that a squared will be this number. We've got to double it first before we square it. And guess what? We need another one. So the quick way is double it, because the length and the width, it's a square, they're identical. So on my calculator, to get AC, I need to be square rooting 745.56. I got 27.305. So that'll be 27.3 centimetres. Hopefully when you practice your simultaneous equations, you don't neglect the quadratic ones, because they come up just as often. As we all know, lots of algebra end up with a quadratic, get it solved, and off you go. So it's only your choice. Do you want to do x equals 5 minus y or y equals 5 minus x? It doesn't matter, it should work out exactly the same. I went with the x equals 5 minus y approach. So wherever I see x, in goes 5 minus y. Don't forget your brackets. So it's going to be 2 lots of 5 minus y all squared. Haven't done anything to the rest. So let's square these brackets before we double it. Square the first, square the last, times them together and double it. Whoops, that's a square. Double everything, so 50 plus 2y squared minus 20y. And now we need to form our quadratic. So let's bring the 5y squared to the front. The y's, there's only one term, so that stays as minus 20. Numerically, 50 minus 210 gives us negative 160 on the end. You could quite easily go for the quadratic formula here, but they do all divide by 5, and it does become a nice straightforward factorising. Minus 4y minus 32. So two numbers which multiply together to make negative 32, add together to make negative 4y. You've probably seen these exact numbers if you've done enough of these questions, that it's going to be negative 8 and positive 4. I'm a big fan of splitting my page in two. So when y is 8, we have that formula that x equaled 5 take away y. So minus 3 is one pair of solutions. Make sure you get them the right way around. Minus 3 and 8. And when y is negative, what the heck is that? Negative 4. x equals 5 minus -4 to get 9. And we've got a -4 for a pretty standard 5-mark quadratic simultaneous equations. But this one's not standard by any means. Work on the top, work on the bottom, try and do one thing at a time. What's the link? The number 5. They're all ish powers of 5. So let's replace 30 with 6 times 5. Let's replace 25 with 5 squared. Let's go for a similar stuff on the bottom. So root 180 is root 36 times by root 5. And then let's replace the root 5 with 5 to the power of a half. 4x plus 9. So lots going off, but one thing at a time. First thing, 6 divided by 6, we can get rid of that. Let's now proceed to tidy up. BIDMAS says get them brackets sorted. So on the top, power to a power means multiply the powers. So it's going to be 5 to the power of 4x plus 14. And I'm going to stick a little 1 in there because we know what's coming next. On the bottom, that root 5 is also 5 to the half. But here, let's tidy these powers up. Times the 4x plus 9 by a half. And we get 2x plus either 4.5 or 9 over 2. Entirely your choice. Let's now go tidy up the top. When they are multiplied, the tops are added. So 1 plus all this is 4x plus 15. Multiply means add. So on the bottom, we get a half plus 4 halves to get, sorry, not 4 halves, 9 halves to get 4.5 plus a half, which is 5. So on the bottom, 2x plus 5. And we're nearly there because when they're divided, it means subtract the powers. 4x take away 2x, 15 take away 5. Give your answer in the form 5 to the power of w, where w is an expression in terms of x. You are allowed to write w equals 2x plus 10. I know it's not really, the mark scheme allows it. All right, or you could write that answer there. Either of those two will get you the 3 marks. 3 marks, a bit tight, isn't it? So question 24's got a lovely part A and a mahusive part B. I'm going to stay on this page. I'm not going to go on to the next page. I'm just going to talk you through A, then we'll ignore it and we'll just use this space down here as the working out. So for part A, how do we get from A to C? So we go minus 4A plus 3B plus 2A plus B. And we must make sure it's simplified because that's what they tell us to do. So the answer to part A, simplified, is 4B minus 2A. So let's pretend A's done and we've turned on to part B. So part B's got a lot of waffle at the beginning, but it tells you basically that this line is in the ratio of 2 to 3. It then tells you there is a point out here called Q, such that BCQ is a straight line and OPQ is a straight line. So your task really is, can you find 2 ways of getting from O to Q? Because O to Q will be a multiple of O to P. It will also be a multiple of B to C, but you've got to go from O first. So let's find two ways of getting from O to Q by finding O to P first. I'll squeeze it up here to get a bit of extra room out the page. So O to P, how do I get? Well, I'm going to go across the bottom. There's only two sticks for that. So I go along 4A and I go 3/5 of the line A to C. And that's why it got you to do it. Feel free to grab your calcs to expand and simplify. I get 14/5 A and 12/5 B. So the line O to Q is going to be something times that. But now let's find the alternative way for getting O to Q. It's going to be first. So another way of getting O to Q is thinking, well, hold on. O to Q, I'll go to B first. So O to B. This is what I'm doing. And it's going to be BC, some multiple of. Don't know what that line. Let's just call it a number. So O to Q is 3B plus a multiple of 2A plus B. And that's going to equal some multiple of OP. All this nonsense. That's what's going on, everyone. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know I do prefer this way of comparing coefficients, because it looks like you've introduced these letters and you can't work them out. Well, absolutely not. You can. The numbers next to vector A must be equal. So on the left-hand side, the only things I've got next to A is 2n. The only things I've got next to A on the right-hand side is 14m over 5. If I do the same for the coefficients of B, the left-hand side has a 3 and an n. That's all it's got. And on the right-hand side, it's got 12m over 5. So as you can see, you've got some simultaneous equations. Now, however you want to do it, it's entirely up to you. I went with, if I divide both sides by 2 over here, I get that n, divide that by 2, divide that by 2, I get 7/5 of m, and I stick it in over here. So I can say that 3 plus 7/5 of m equals 12/5 of m, which looks very weird, but if you subtract 7/5 of m from both sides, you end up with 5/5 of m, which is just 1 m. So m is 3. That means you can now express, because you don't need n, by the way, you can now just go that O to Q. So what? Let's just remember, by the way, where was m? M was the multiple that went next to OP. So we're just going to replace. So OQ is 3 lots of all that. So that means 3 lots of 14A over 5 plus 3 lots of 12B over 5. And there we go. And before you ask, That's not a 2 marker, that was a 4 marker. I'm just using the next page because I wanted it all on one. Number 25, good old transformations. Before I even read the question, I start looking at, well, how high? Oh, they've not given us a scale. But remember, sine curve goes up to 1. They've put a 2 in front of it, so this goes up to and down to plus and negative 2. It's also been moved. Don't forget what a plus 60 does. That moves a graph left 60. So where is A? Well, its height is definitely 2. The peak of the sine curve, if you just make a quick sketch, the peak of it normally comes at 90. This has been moved left 60, so the peak hits at 30. Find the coordinates of B. B is the point of intersection, which, as we've just said, normally happens there. That's 360. So not anymore. It's moved left 60. So that means it's moved in to 300 and its height is 0. So there we go. As if you've watched the whole video, lots of bog standard stuff all the way through and a doozy at the end of a vectors question. So overall, not the worst paper in the world. Even if you disagree, I'm sorry. There you go. Well, I hope that's helped. I'll see you on the next one.